more about measuring the volume when you get your guy one. Because we did it before, and we filled it up to the fill line, if you will, the line that this edge makes with the bowl when you set it fill. And the way we did it was with a kitchen scale. I thought I would demonstrate the other way to measure volume in case you don't have a kitchen scale. I don't remember if this is the same guy one or not. So if we get a different answer this time, it's probably, I think before we measured it was about 100 milliliters. Oh, this must be a smaller guy one. If I look at my measuring cup, it says 80 milliliters. So this is my little guy one. As far as cups go, I just thought I would show you a couple of my favorites. This was the smallest one in the picture that I shared in the Discord. It has very thin walls. Yeah, it's very old and beautifully crafted, actually. But like I said, this narrow, tall shape is easy to tip over accidentally if you brush up against it, especially if it's thin like this one and lightweight. But it's just so beautiful and it feels so good to sip from. This is another one of my favorites. It's very simple bowl kind of shape, but the way that the lip is shaped makes it very nice to drink out of. I don't think that's particularly uncommon. I think it's easy to find a cup that has a nice sip, but when you do, it's still nice. This one's definitely thicker and heavier and more sturdy and stout, so if you want something that, if you are a clumsy person, this might be more of the shape for you. So tea tray, cha pan. Pan means plate in Chinese and cha means tea. So the literal translation of the Chinese word for this thing. Pan is P-A-N, so C-H-A-P-A-N is how you search for the Chinese name of this thing. And this is kind of the standard issue beginner cha pan, or most basic cheap kind, if you will. I think it's made out of bamboo. This is a very old, weathered one. It's peeling, and some of the boards are loose. But it still serves its purpose, which is to be flat and to let water drain into it. This is the inside that I never clean. I just dry it out. Make sure to let it dry outside the day after. Any types have a hole in the bottom with a tube that you can make go off the side of your table down to a bucket on the floor. That will let your wastewater collect there, so you don't ever have to do what I do with this kind and empty it out. This is quite a lot of volume, so you could do, I don't know, 5 or 10 tea sessions probably, without actually filling up with water. Though it's a lot. Usually you just empty it out after, one day of use. Don't leave water sitting in it, obviously, for more than a day or something. Okay, so what are the qualities of these things? Well, it's big enough to hold my teapot and my fairness cup. That's basically the only requirement, because when you're serving there's other cool things you can do with it. You can be creative. But for me, it's basically a coaster for my fairness cup. And so any tea that I spill over the fairness cup will just get absorbed by it. For a pot, wait, let's back up. For a gaiwan, they come with a little saucer that they're designed to fit into. And I don't use those. I just throw them away when I get my gaiwan, or save them for a purpose I haven't done yet. So something a little bit harder and flatter is probably best for the gaiwan. It's designed to sit on something hard and flat. It's got a small circular surface on the bottom. So this is flexible, but still a little bit stiff like cardboard, even though this is made out of, I'm not sure. I think it's made out of some kind of synthetic fibers. There are other ones that are made of cork that might work for this. Actually, I might just use nothing. No, that's not right. If it's really flat like this, you could use nothing. This chop on is not really that flat in the middle, so I would put on something like this. Then your fairness cup doesn't get to be on the tea tray anymore if you're using something small like this. So you can get creative. Another nice place to put your fairness cup. So you just kind of have like two small tea trays instead of one big one. I'm going to come back to the teapot thing I was about to say in a minute. This is another kind of nice ceramic tray that could be used for a fairness cup. Or if you're by yourself, you could put the fairness cup and one teacup on it. This is a cute little setup, right? If you have guests, some people have some board kind of like this, but is longer, like maybe 3 times as long as this, and then you could put multiple people's coaster and teacups on that while they're sitting on the other side of the table. I don't have anything, so I put my coasters directly on the table when I'm serving guests. Alright, last thing. Oh, you even go smaller. Here's another ceramic chop on that is glazed inside and on this surface, but it's not glazed on the outside, or some other kind of glaze that's rough. It's an interesting one. More to be pretty than to be functional and practical, really, because gripping this middle thing to pull it out, to dump out the water, is very awkward. But if you saw it and you just thought, that's beautiful, I need that, there's really nothing wrong with it. If you're willing to go to that trouble. This would have to be a little bit smaller to look right on it, right? Like if you had one that you just cut into a smaller circle, that could be the resting place of this. Usually you don't want to clink porcelain against porcelain or ceramic against ceramic. That sound you try to avoid. So you always have some buffer in between 2 ceramic surfaces, however you do your setup. That would mean this on here, something like this, but that would look more appropriate on here before your teapot. So, what are these things? This is a very popular style of coaster that's specifically for Yixing teapots, the clay small Gong Fu tea Chinese style teapot. When you have this kind of pot, you basically season it all the time by pouring tea over it, pouring hot water over it, or just letting it sit with spent tea leaves inside it after you finish a brew. You can leave them overnight in the clay to help to season your clay more. And so a lot of people have a setup that emphasizes this, and for whatever reason, this tends to be a really good material for kind of like babying your pot, cradling your pot, keeping it happy while you're doing all of that, and brewing tea. You basically can use this anytime you're using the pot for anything. And it's made out of loofah, the big spongy gourd that they make the back scrubbers out of. This is like a thin slice from the plant, basically, that then some needle and thread is used to make two concentric circles that holds, actually it's a few thin pieces all sewed together, and that will last really, really long time, maybe forever, I guess. It just turns like almost black color, or like the same color as the pot color. But it will dry out easily after each use, and then it will stay clean, even if it looks black and ugly. That's just tea. I think that's everything I was going to talk about today, so thanks for being patient with me and listening, and I look forward to talking to you about tea soon. Peace.